Jailton Almeida defeats Derrick Lewis in both impressive and unimpressive fashion. It was impressive because of how dominant the win was and how he was able to control Lewis very easily, and he also did show some improvements. I'll get into that in a minute. But it was also unimpressive because he wasn't able to submit Derrick Lewis. Of all people, he couldn't submit Derrick Lewis. Sergey Spivak, of all people, took Lewis down and submitted him in like 3 minutes of the first round. But Jailton Almeida, a guy who should have better submissions than Spivak, couldn't submit him in 5 rounds. He did attempt a few submissions, a couple arm triangles and rear naked chokes, but none of them were even close to finishing the fight, and a lot of them weren't even good attempts. Now, credit to Derrick Lewis's submission defense. It looked pretty good in this fight, but Almeida should have been able to submit him so easily, and Derrick Lewis didn't even have a training camp to prepare. He took this fight, I'm not exactly sure on how many days notice, but it was only like a 2-week notice Derrick Lewis took this fight. So he didn't even have time to prepare and work on his submission defense, and Almeida still couldn't submit him. Almeida spent most of this fight in mount, and he didn't even do anything with the position he had. He wasn't really landing ground and pound, which is something I noticed leading up to this fight. I went back and watched a lot of Almeida's fights, and he does not like to throw ground and pound. And the few times he did throw ground and pound, it was after Mark Goddard yelled at him and told him to work. From mount, Mark Goddard had to tell Almeida to do something. And because he just kind of sat there in mount, didn't land any ground and pound, attempted a few arm triangles, but none of them were close or really even good attempts, it led to a pretty boring fight. Almeida even got Lewis's back, and he attempted some rear naked chokes, which he should be able to finish. The second Lewis gives up his back, Almeida should be able to finish him easily, but none of the chokes were even that close. Does this show that Lewis's submission defense is better than we thought, or does it show that Almeida isn't as good of a grappler as we thought? I think it's a little bit of both. Almeida's grappling didn't look terrible. He was getting into mount, he was transitioning to the back, but at the same time Lewis was giving those positions to him, and he still couldn't find a submission. If Almeida did actually throw ground and pound, he might have had an easier time finding a submission, because a lot of guys like Khabib used to do this back in the day, where he would rain down ground and pound, which made submissions easier because opponents would give him up to avoid getting hit in the face. And the few times he did throw ground and pound, Lewis would give up his back and panic, but Almeida still wasn't able to capitalize. Derrick Lewis even got up a few times from the bottom. I get he's a big strong guy, and maybe that affected Almeida. He was quite a bit smaller than Lewis in this fight, but Derrick Lewis, who has very bad wrestling and pretty much no grappling, should not be able to get up from the bottom against Almeida. But Almeida was able to stick with him and take him back to the ground, so that's good work. And Almeida's wrestling actually looked a lot better in this fight than in previous fights. Now, his takedowns did have zero setup to them. If you watched my prediction video, I said Almeida does the same setup for his takedowns every single time, where he'll feint high and then go for the double leg, which I said was a bad thing because it made him too predictable, but at least he set up those takedowns. A lot of his takedowns in this fight were just completely naked shots, but his form and drive on the takedowns did look a lot better in this fight, and he was able to stick with Lewis when he would get up and chain wrestle and transition. But again, he just couldn't get anything off on the ground, or just chose not to. Lewis had zero urgency, and yet Almeida still wasn't able to get off anything effective, wasn't able to land any ground and pound, and didn't even come close to any submission despite having ideal positions, had Lewis's back with hooks in, had mount, had many opportunities to look for submissions, and it seemed like he just gave up after the 3rd round and decided to just ride out the round, sit in mount, do just enough to keep Mark Goddard from standing them up and win the fight. But it really did not impress me. And then on the feet, Lewis was always looking for that uppercut. That was pretty much the only punch Lewis would throw, where Almeida would shoot in from distance, like I said he would, because he doesn't want to be anywhere near boxing range, so he would kick from a distance and then shoot in from far out, and Lewis tried to time that uppercut so many times. The same uppercut he caught Curtis Blades with, and he just missed. I think on every single takedown Almeida attempted, he would throw that uppercut, he would try and time it, and he came extremely close a couple of times. That's how I saw Derrick winning the fight, if you go back and watch my prediction video. And the reason that uppercut was so close so many times is because Almeida just doesn't set up his takedowns. He shoots from out of range with no setup, and he almost paid for it. There was one, I think in the 4th round, where Lewis almost landed an uppercut, and if he landed it, the fight would have been over. But besides that, Lewis showed pretty much no no urgency in this fight. He defended takedowns a couple times well, and then he himself would go for a trip against Almeida against the cage, which he did because I think it was the third round. He had some success where he was able to reverse Almeida's position and land ground and pound. So that's why he was trying to take the fight to the ground instead of doing the smart thing, which was breaking away and keeping the fight standing. Even though it was a boring fight, Almeida won in very dominant fashion. He wasn't able to submit Lewis, which isn't a good look, and he should be thankful that Curtis Blaydes was not in there. I thought Blaydes would have won, but now I'm really confident Blaydes would have won. Blaydes is a much better wrestler, one of the best wrestlers in the heavyweight division, and has overall just much better striking than Almeida. And now that Almeida has to look up in the rankings, what does he do against the top guys? What the hell does he do to Jon Jones? He's not going to take Jones down. Jones is bigger than him, longer than him, taller than him, which immediately plays into Jones's strength. He's not going to submit Jon Jones, and on the feet, Jon Jones is going to tear him apart. Almeida does not move his head, so that jab cross from Jones is always going to be there. What does he do to Tom Aspinall? He's probably not going to take Aspinall down, and Aspinall can always take him down, and on the ground, Aspinall is going to dominate him. Aspinall might not be able to submit him, but I'm more confident he could submit Almeida than Almeida could submit him. If Almeida can't even submit Derrick Lewis, he's not submitting Tom Aspinall. And then on the feet, what does Almeida do? Aspinall has very good kicks. He can't sit and kick at range like he can against a lot of these boxers. And Aspinall has very good boxing, very powerful, very quick. Almeida relies a lot on his athleticism, but he's going up against a guy who's faster than him. So I don't see him beating Aspinall. I guess Pavlovich, he has a chance because he could take him down and submit him. Sergey doesn't have great grappling, but at the same time, he couldn't submit Derrick Lewis. And on the feet, he gets destroyed. I guess he could kick from range, but I think Pavlovich eventually finds the knockout. Stipe, same thing. Stipe doesn't have very good grappling, which leaves a hole Almeida could exploit. But again, he's not submitting Derrick Lewis, so he's not submitting Stipe. Stipe has very good wrestling, so he's going to have a hard time taking him down. And then on the feet, Stipe is one of the best boxers the heavyweight division has ever seen. So Almeida's going to get torn apart on the feet. Alexander Volkov probably beats him. He could beat guys like Sergey Spivak and Tai Tuivasa, but Tai's a very dangerous fight, has a lot of power, has very good leg kicks, but he should beat both of those guys. And the guy he called out, Ciryl Gane, man, before going into this fight, I thought he'd have a good chance at beating Ciryl. On the feet, he's got nothing for Ciryl. Ciryl's going to kill him on the feet, but can he take him down? I think he would take him down, but on the ground, again, Ciryl has better submission defense, better grappling overall than Derrick Lewis, and he wasn't able to submit Derrick Lewis. But could he control him to a decision? I guess possibly. And then the guy I think you should fight, Curtis Blaydes, I think you should rebook that fight. But again, it's a tough fight for Almeida. Blaydes is probably the second best wrestler in the heavyweight division behind Jon Jones, so he's going to have a real hard time taking him to the ground. And if he does take him to the ground, he probably has the advantage there, but I hate to keep bringing this up, but if you can't submit Derrick Lewis, you're not submitting Curtis Blaydes. And then on the feet, Blaydes is such a sharp boxer. He's so fast, so technical that I don't think Almeida has anything for him on the feet. So even though I think Blaydes should be the next fight, it makes the most sense. I don't see him beating Curtis Blaydes, and I don't really see him beating anyone in the top 5. I guess his easiest matchup is Ciryl Gane, and I would still probably favor Ciryl over him. But anyways, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to subscribe if you are new here. I got 2 more videos coming out this week, guaranteed, hopefully or possibly more. I got my UFC 295 prediction video coming out on Thursday, and I have a new series I'm doing on Francis Ngannou coming on probably Friday. So subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss that. Like the video if you did enjoy, comment your opinions on this fight down below. Follow my brand on Instagram, follow myself on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Stuck in a bad dream, Hollywood rich girl stuck in my backseat. She wanna get at me, but the day's too short, can't let her distract me.